Good morning. We're live on YouTube on the Falcons Podcast. We're going to bring in our Facebook groups real quick, Atlanta Falcons fans on SI and Scott Kennedy Sports. So we get everybody in here on a frustrating Monday morning after a late night with the Atlanta Falcons. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. It is Monday morning. The Falcons just watched their playoff chances just about go up in smoke last night with some questionable clock management and some leaky defense. Kind of the theme of the day. Nick, I kind of felt like this game kind of encapsulated the entire season other than, the quarterback play. You got a rookie in there and how that played. But as far as the wins and loss, how this game played out with the clock management and the defense, I'm like, this is who the Falcons are right now. And it's cost them a playoff spot. Yeah, Nick, you're breaking up really bad, so I can't hear you on that. I'm not sure how well we're going to be able to do this.
I said shout out to Jaden Daniels. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Better? Okay. Shout out to, that's the first thing I take away. He had an unbelievable game, an amazing play, and definitely rookie of the year. And I think right now his play is rivaling what we saw from CJ Stroud last year as a rookie season. So he was impossible to stop.
Yeah, and the thing is the Falcons were never going to stop him. Not the way they play defense. It was fairly predictable. They're running even when they're running their 3-4 with a 5-man line. If Jaden Daniels breaks containment, they don't have anybody that can catch him. Depending on if you run away from Caden Ellis. Then J.D. Bertrand had a good game. He's a very instinctive linebacker, but he's not overly impressively physically. He's not a speed demon that's going to chase him down. Nate Landman isn't that guy. And Jimmy Lake isn't going to have a defensive back within 20 yards of the line of scrimmage. So if he breaks containment, it's easy money for him. And that was really, really predictable watching this team. And in the first half, they seemed to be able to hem him in a little bit and get to him. In the second half, they started moving them around a little bit and running the ball. Once they started running the ball and dictating, I wrote it yesterday in the predictions. I said if they have the number 3 ranked rushing offense, if they control the clock and the ball, the Falcons are going to find themselves in a very uncomfortable position, and that is rooting for the New Orleans Saints because that's what it's going to take right now. The playoff picture is really simple. You got to beat the Panthers at home, and you got to hope the Saints beat the Buccaneers. Yeah, good luck with that. No, your chances were beating the Commanders last night, and that went up poorly. And we're going to get into all of that over the course of the next hour because I know there's some frustrated Falcons fans in here, and you guys were probably yelling the same expletives at the television I was last night. It's not necessarily the winning and losing that drives me so crazy. It's watching millionaires being paid 7-8 figures to coach a football team or to draft or to build a football team doing really stupid stuff. That's what makes me angry. So Edward Brown, he mentions this. This was a turning point at the beginning of the second half. He says that Malone penalty was a dagger. So 3rd and 22 and a 5-yard automatic first down extends the drive. It would have been 3 and out. Instead, I think the Commanders went on a 14-play touchdown drive. It was a dagger, Edward. EB, but it's not like you didn't have chances to recover from it. You know what I'm saying? When they run 3 13-plus play drives after that penalty, I'm not putting this one all on D'Angelo, but yeah, that was a very harmful penalty for sure.
Yeah. Again, the Falcons had a significantly better day in terms of the penalties. The Falcons were called for 4 penalties for 25 yards compared to 13 for 108 with the Commanders. So that's something the Falcons, we talked about it on here. They've had some struggles with the penalties, but that was a very untimely one for the Falcons overall. So unfortunate. And just could not do enough, especially in that second half. There was a time they showed that graphic, Scott, where the yardage and the plays were completely discordant. So pretty tough one there. And I'm going to reboot my computer here real quick, Scott. I think that's going to
okay. That's fine. The one he's talking about, I actually took a picture of the screen. I took a picture of the screen because I wanted to remember it. And I usually do a snapshot of the. I don't care about stories right now. Phone. I do a snapshot of the halftime stats and I forgot. But offensive by half, when the first half, the Falcons had, it had just switched. The Falcons had 199 yards in the first half. In the second half, they had 14 on 9 plays. And I think that was the beginning of the fourth quarter. And they couldn't get the ball back. And they're not aggressive enough up front on defense. And they were going to have to take some chances. This whole newfangled analytics stuff of dictating how you do things. Well, how about, running a clock and when to use your timeouts? That should be in your analytics of when to do that. But the whole idea of, we don't give up explosives. We don't give up explosives. Well, congratulations. You didn't give up any explosive plays in the second half. I don't think you gave up any explosive plays in the game. Couldn't get the ball back. But it was something at one point, it was like 20-5 on time of possession. And part of it was with this penalty. And EB comes back. He says, I love Penix pushing the ball downfield. It's different. He had an okay game. There were some open receivers that he just flat out missed that it could have changed the game. And then he had a couple throws that are just jaw dropping. That final touchdown pass and being able to push that out route deep, that 20-yard outside seam deep out route to Drake London or Darnell Mooney is just special. That's first round arm talent. The throw he had for the tying touchdown to Kyle Pitts, I couldn't remember what movie it was, so y'all help me out. But there's one where they're like working out. It may have been like, what was the one in Texas where the team got the death penalty with Kathy Ireland and Bakula or whatever the guy, Scott Bakula, Sinbad, and they throw in the ball, hits him right in the face mask and just sticks, and he just kind of reaches up and grabs it. I'm like, there you go. You throw the ball hard enough at Kyle Pitts, it's going to just stick in him like a dart. That's how I felt about that. He's got a special arm. The fastball was there. The control wasn't always on point, and that will get better with time. But you can't coach the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. That's just God-given. Daryl coming in. Good to see you. GA Doc, he says, good morning, guys. Right back at you. He says, Raheem and the defense cost us that game. Not being able to stop the QB run in the second half. Poor tackling. Terrible clock management. Thoughts on Penix? I just gave some of my thoughts on Penix. And the first one, as far as this, in your super chat goes, read the title here. I question, how do I want to title this? Because I wanted to get Michael Penix in the title. I was like, and I started the title as saying Michael Penix led comeback falls short in overtime, and Falcons overtime loss to Commanders. Okay, but that's getting my keywords in there and trying to make sure that we see as many eyeballs as possible. But I'm like, but Michael Penix really didn't cost this game. I'm like, screw it. I'm not putting Michael Penix in the title at all. We'll rely on y'all to like and share and let more people know about what we're doing instead of the algorithm. And I'm just going to put it like it was. And I changed the title, The Atlanta Falcons Defense and Clock Management Torpedo Their Comeback Chances versus the Commanders. Now, to be fair, Washington didn't play a very good game. If I'm the Washington Commanders and I ended up losing that game, I'm not really crediting the Falcons. And this is how our own biases kick in. You'll hear me talk about bias all the time. Everybody's biased. There is no such thing as non-biased. There's the ability to recognize a bias and try and compensate for it, but there's no such thing as non-biased. And Washington did not play a very good game. I was thinking about it this morning. I'm like, is this what 11-5 teams really look like right now? Because other than Jaden Daniels running wild, I didn't see a ton from Washington that made me think, oh, yeah, this is really an 11-6 team. But, you look at the records this year, and the Falcons have gotten the number 8 pick with 7-10, 3 straight years. In 3 straight years, they've had the number 8 pick at 7-10. Well, 7-10 will put you in the teens right now. There's just some really, really bad football teams going on this year. So, Nick, I was saying, the Washington didn't play great. They didn't really impress me as far as a team. Like, is this what 11-5 teams look like now? I mean, 11-5 football teams to me used to be Super Bowl contenders. I don't think they're the 6th seed for a reason. There's a huge disparity. There's almost no middle class in teams this year. Falcons happen to be one of them. Tampa Bay is right there. Washington's right there. But I was saying the Falcons at 7-10 have had the number 8 pick several years in a row. 7-10 will get you 15 or 16 this year, because there's so many bad football teams. So the Commanders didn't play well, and they gave the Falcons plenty of chances, especially with the penalties, extending drives or stopping drives. The Falcons took advantage of with a 17-7 lead in the first half. But the clock management and the defense, again, they just settled down and said, we're going to run the ball. They can't catch us. They can't stop us on the run. And we're going to play keep away. And it worked, Nick.
Yeah, I thought that specifically the linebackers had a tough game overall. Shout out to Ellis. I thought he had that big pick in the first half as well. He had an okay game. But you're right. They didn't have an answer for Jaden Daniels' speed and the power of Robinson / at the end. I mean, it was Chris Rodriguez, I think, the running back from Kentucky, I want to say. But yeah, no, the defense, they couldn't do anything in the second half. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but like the success rate or whatever, they could not get off the field there at the end. And when the Commanders were not giving up the ball by either not converting fourth downs or creating turnovers or giveaways, I guess, on their end, Falcons really didn't have an answer. In the second half, it just was a slow bleed. Really, they just could not figure out how to slow down Jaden Daniels.
My super chats came a little bit out of order, so I feel like I skipped over some guys. No, EB came in first early, so I didn't. But it's kind of jumping around on me. So Brian, thank you for your patience, my friend. Feels like a newer name on the super chat. Where's 614? That's not Memphis, is it? 614 area code, or that might mean something else. It might mean June 14th for you. But he says, "Good morning, Scott, Nick. Happy holidays." Right back at you. Holidays still coming up. Mine runs through Friday. My birthday is actually on Friday, so my holidays always run through the 3rd. He says, and my mom's birthday is tomorrow. So we have a very festive time in the Kennedy house. There needs to be accountability in the front office and coaching staff. It's clear it's not coming from Arthur Blank. Yeah, I wrote up the story about James Palmer saying that he thinks the Falcons are basically telling him that Kirk Cousins, or some people in the Falcons front office telling him that Kirk Cousins is washed, that he cannot play anymore, that he's done, physically cannot do it. He is unplayable. Man, how'd you like to hear that if you're Arthur Blank and you just laid out $90 million? How do you like to hear that as a Falcons fan who just watched the Falcons in 2022 set the record for a dead cap number on Matt Ryan, and then 3 years later beat that number by 50% with Kirk Cousins? Nick, we're in the shame on me phase of this relationship with Arthur Blank and his money. If you want to come and get me and you want me to write a check for a signing bonus, no. No. In 3 years, 2022 and then in 2025, they will have flushed $105 million down the drain on 2 players over 35 years old on dead contracts. Those are fireable offenses, man.
Yeah. My biggest concern with moving on from Terry Fontenot and the coaching staff is I feel like teams are best when you have organizational alignment, and you don't want to get to a thing where you fire Fontenot, but you keep Morris, and then 2 years from now, well, we don't know enough about the GM yet. It's not really fair to fire him so soon, but Raheem Morris has got to go. So right now with the regime, I still think this team has a good bit of talent, especially now that you have the young rookie quarterback in there. I would probably give Fontenot another year, and it is a marriage between Fontenot and Morris. If it is I don't want to say playoffs. I don't want to say playoffs are bust because you never know what the circumstances look like around your division and everything like that, and how the NFC, maybe all of a sudden the NFC has there's a better middle class next season. But right now, I think I'm much more on the keep Terry for another year, but you have him married to Morris, and if one fails, they both fail. They're both out, and then you have continuity.
I think so too. I think usually a GM can survive one. And when I said it's a fireable offense, let me be clear on this. I talked Matt Ryan and I talked Kirk Cousins. Those were 2 different general managers. When I say it was a fireable offense, Thomas Dimitroff got fired for his salary cap management. So it was a fireable offense. The gross mismanagement of the salary cap that Thomas Dimitroff had. Had some decent drafts. His free agents were hit and miss, and his salary cap management was awful. Fontenot's drafts have been okay. I think other than Cousins, other than that huge iceberg, I think his free agency and the pro side has been terrific. And I think other than Kirk Cousins, his salary cap management has been really good. So it's like, why can't we just get the whole thing going here? Wouldn't that be nice? Because Mark comes in And he asks a question. He says, another disappointing season, 8-8, 8-8. And you're playing a dead rubber game against the Panthers if the Buccaneers win. You still need to win it, but you're scoreboard watching this whole time. I'm not counting on Spencer Rattler and the Saints to go in. They'd rather lose that game. Remember, we reward teams for losing. Now, wouldn't it be fun if the Saints were in a relegation battle and if they didn't lose, they got moved down to the second division? I bet you'd get their best shot then instead of rewarding them for losing. But Mark says, do you see any changes coming? Yes. But when has logic ever followed the Atlanta Falcons? Rarely. It's nice when it's like, oh, this is what should happen. This is what does happen. And an idiot like me can figure out this needs to happen. You need more speed on defense. You need more speed on the back seven on your defense. I need more speed at linebacker. And, I need to play my defensive backs closer if I'm going to play a mobile quarterback because I don't have anybody in the front seven that can catch that mobile quarterback. Jimmy Lake needs to be gone. He needs to be gone. The experiment, whatever it took this year, he is not working. We've got 16 games under our belt now, and it hasn't really gotten much better. The huge holes in this defense, the scheme where I can line up and look at it, and I'm watching this game, and I'm like, it's 3rd and 8, and you're rushing 3. And you're dropping everybody back. Oh, there goes Jaden Daniels, just right around the corner. Who's going to catch him in the front 3 that's rushing? I'll just scamper for 8 when I drop 8 20 yards deep. Saw another one, Nick. They had a 4-man rush, 7-man coverage, split really wide, 3rd and 5. And I yell at the screen, the middle of the effing GD MFing field. Oh, I'm awful to watch a game with. It's wide open. Little angle route from the running back, dump it over the middle. That was the one where they stopped him right at the yard line and he pushed forward for the first down. There wasn't anybody within 5 yards of him when he caught the ball. Jimmy Lake's got to go, Mark. Sorry, Jimmy. I'm sure you're well compensated. You'll make more money than I've ever made. And you will not be out of work for very long, but I don't want you being defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons past Sunday.
Yeah, do you think that he will be? I guess that's my question. I think he'll be back. I think Morris, it's not been good this season, obviously, but I thought the players were still playing hard overall. And I think that based on what I've heard from Morris, I don't know if he will get rid of somebody like that after one season. Now I would make the move. I'm with you, Scott. I just don't see it happening.
I don't know if it'll be his choice. There's several people over him that could, you're going to make a change here. You cannot look at the metrics, any of them, on defense. Before the big ones that we said, you put all of this money and all this investment into your offense, okay? And then you run a bend but don't break Swiss cheese prevent defense. That was your initial instinct. We're going to run a prevent. And I can't get the ball to my offense. And we saw it exacerbated last night. This was I can't get stops. They go on long drives and get points and play keep away to a T. This was everything that we had complained about. This was it on steroids in the second half of this game. Yeah. If you're not getting them off the field, it doesn't matter how good Drake London is. It doesn't matter I used a number 8 pick on Michael Penix. It doesn't matter that Bijan Robinson's one of the best offensive players. It doesn't matter I've got 4 first-round picks on my offensive line. If I can't get the GD ball back, all of that is irrelevant. If I'm an offensive coordinator, if I'm Arthur Blank and I'm saying I put all this investment in, so just let him score for God's sakes, and at least we can get the ball back.
Yeah, and that's the big one for me. I mean, Bijan had a incredible game overall, but what does he walk away with? Only 17 attempts, 2 touchdowns still, but you could not.
13 of those were in the first half, but you only ran 3 plays in the third quarter.
That's exactly it. You need to be able to get off the field. And that's same thing with the Bronco game. They could not get off the freaking field in that one. And shout out to, again, I was so impressed with Jaden Daniels and the ability to just keep drives alive and make those big plays. I don't know how sustainable it is long-term because, how many rushing attempts did he have in this game? 16 for 127 yards. He's a slender guy. I don't know if I would want that as a formula, but in this one single game, the Falcons had no answer for it in the second half. And that's something that, I know that we're frustrated with Lake as well, but like, what even is the solution there? I don't think you got the horses up front. Somebody mentioned in the chat as well. Your slot was absolutely freaking abused in this game. Alford, he had one of the worst slot games I've seen this season. He got lucky in that drop from Olamide Zaccheaus as well. Revenge game, I guess, for Zaccheaus there. But Alford had a horrific game. Linebackers outside of Ellis, Landman, good between the A gaps, right? Maybe the B gaps too. But if you ask him to chase outside the tackles, good luck. And I mean, even you had Bates getting cooked on a play by Ertz at some point in the game too. So yeah, the defense didn't step up. I'm with you, Lake. I think the defense has been better since the bye week. I just don't know exactly what I would do totally different compared to the changes he's made, given the players that he has.
In this game, you've got to take more risks. You have to bring your safeties up closer. You've got to play a little bit more press man. You've got to live with the idea that Terry McLaurin may get an explosive play. You have to, because he's really the only one that's going to do that. Trust AJ to slow him down enough where he's not the one killing you, because otherwise it was death by 1,000 cuts. It was automatic first down, 8-yard drive, touchdown. That was the second half.
Yeah.
And when you're playing a 4-2 or even a 3-4, because you're right. And I started off, and I don't know if you were on here or were able to hear me, but if Ellis isn't getting to him, Landman can't catch him, JD Bertrand can't catch him. Your front five, there isn't anybody in there with that kind of Micah Parsons 4-3 ability that's going to run him down. And your defensive backs are all 15 to 20 yards off the line of scrimmage. This was easy. So you said, it's not sustainable that you get 16 carries from Jaden Daniels. I agree. You don't want him to have 300 freaking carries. You don't have to. This was a one-off type of game where you could beat the Falcons by just breaking contain, and you're getting 8 to 10 free yards without even getting contact. I can just break contain and run for the sidelines.
And part of it is too just about the team building aspect. I know it's all about the front seven for this team. A lot of it is. I mean, Ellis is a player. You got some young players up there still that year. I mean, Ebiketie had a sack. He's been playing. I feel like he's been playing better since the bye. But I think the cornerbacks also are a spot that if you want to be more aggressive up front, you need to have guys that you trust on the back end. And they call like they don't trust Alford. They don't trust Hughes out there as well. So again, if you have guys you trust more in the back end, you can allocate more bodies to the front seven. So maybe big picture, long term, I'm not sure if that's the direction with the draft or free agency or anything, but it's definitely a viable option. One other thing, Scott, we haven't talked about Penix that much. I thought this was not as good of a game as we saw. The key stat in this one for me that was the win-loss in this one was third downs. And typically third downs are a pretty good indicator for your quarterback play in a game. I don't have the average distance on the third down in this one. That's obviously a huge one. I wish I had a site that had that conglomerated for every team, but having going 2 for 10 on third down efficiency. Now you go 2 for 2 on fourth down. That's good. That makes up for it a little bit, but 2 for 10 on third down compared to 6 for 13 from the Commanders. I mean, everything else is pretty even. There's nothing I think on the stats, just looking over the page, that really stands out as a huge difference between the Falcons and the Commanders. But 2 for 10 on third down, that is a losing number almost every NFL game.
Yeah, if you can't, because their first miss on third down in the third quarter, they didn't see the ball again. They didn't see the ball again, which, again, I still despise the overtime rules. I despise them. You both teams should have an equal opportunity to. It should be equitable, basically, is what I'm trying to say, and it's not. It still isn't. It's better, but when every single rule has been geared towards improving offense, at the end of a 60-minute game, whoever has the ball has a huge advantage because the defenses are freaking gassed. So I still don't like that. Again, that's not what their inability to eat their vegetables in the second half is why they lost this game. That, and, poor clock management. You mentioned, Olamide Zaccheaus. Great game from Olamide. He was a really, really good professional. Not quite Kadero Hodge level of legendary, but good. And I mentioned with Penix, my thoughts on Penix were, it was an up and down game. It was the highs were really high. Some of the throws you saw were just top 5 pick, jaw-dropping throws. And then he missed some open guys. It happens. Rookie quarterback. Someone on the Facebook chat, apologies, but says it would have been nicer if he'd been in sooner and kind of worked this stuff out earlier. And by week 16, you're not a rookie anymore. And I agree 100%. I always like the idea of having a cheap bridge quarterback and then a rookie. You play your 24-year-old rookie like Bo Nix, like Jaden Daniels, and play those guys. But that's neither here nor there. Getting back to your point, Nick, the needs for this team, other than quarterback, which has been addressed, are the exact same as they were last year. Last year going in, we said wide receiver 2. We said quarterback. Wide receiver, you're okay at wide receiver, I think. Might like to get a little bit more depth there, so I don't have Chris Blair running out there. Ray McCloud's had a good season, but you can upgrade there. I can look for upgrades. But cornerback is still a big problem. Mike Hughes is okay. D. Alford has not been okay. Justin Simmons will likely not be back. Inside linebacker needs to be addressed in a big way with some speed. I need a 4-4 guy playing inside linebacker because I can't count on Troy Anderson. I can't. As far as I'm concerned, whatever I get from Troy Anderson is gravy, but I'm not building my 2025 team thinking that Troy Anderson is going to be an answer for my lack of athleticism at the linebacker position.
And part of that too, Scott, is it's a combination of Alford plus the linebackers. You're just so weak in that second level of the defense overhanging the tackle. There's just not a lot of speed there. You can make up a little bit for linebackers' lack of speed if you have a Cooper DeJean at nickel, somebody who's essentially tackles like a linebacker but runs like a safety. And right now, Alford is just a sieve there. And you pair in that with Bertrand or Landman at linebacker, it's not enough. You can also make up for it again if you are so good at the other cornerback spot. You can condense a little bit. You're so good with your defensive tackles. There's ways to overcome it. In a vacuum, though, I'm with you. In theory, your speed is Troy Anderson, but with how many injuries he's had at this point, with how raw he's been, he's one that if you get anything from him, you go into next season, it's a lottery ticket, right? It's like, oh man, awesome, he showed out. If you put yourself in a position where the defensive structure is dependent on him playing like he's never played before, staying healthy like he's never stayed before, shame on you.
Yeah. But I'm looking for his replacement in this offseason. And if whoever I bring in loses out to him, great. It means I'm getting good play from that position.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to
he'll still be cheap.
Either. Yeah, it could be like a 1-year linebackers cheap, Scott, right? That's been a really devalued position. But yeah, it's been frustrating watching the defense. We'll see what they do next season. I have been happy that Ebiketie has started to show a little bit on the pass rush as well. Ruka Rohiro had some moments in this game that I saw as well. So there's some pieces here now. Are there any difference makers in the front seven? Like guys that are like no doubt Pro Bowlers. Grady Jarrett was. I don't know if he is anymore, but that's it. It's again the whole defense. Every single level of the defense could use another guy up there. I mean, your most valuable guy is probably Terrell. Your best player is Bates, but your most valuable is probably Terrell. But every single level could use some stuff, and that defense can help Penix. That defense can help Bijan Robinson, because if you're playing comeback, obvious drop back situation all the time, your bootlegs, your value of the run game, it diminishes as well if you're having to constantly play keep up. And as we saw in this game, never touch the freaking ball.
The last first-round pick the Atlanta Falcons used on the defensive side of the ball was A.J. Terrell.
Oh, wow. Thank you guys for that, too, because you took him, and then the Raiders ended up taking whoever the player was that flashed his gun.
It was A.J. It was A.J. because then Kyle Pitts went next, and then Drake, then Bijan, and then Michael Penix with 4-8-8-8. And I think Lindstrom was in that draft, too, if I'm not mistaken. Lindstrom and Terrell were in that same draft. I think
Lindstrom was a year earlier.
Or was it Lindstrom and McGarry? There were two. I think it was Lindstrom and McGarry were in the same draft. Yeah, there were two. Yeah. There were two guys taken in 2 first rounders that year. So in the last, what's that now? 6 drafts. So 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Last 6 drafts, there's been 1 first rounder taken on defense.
And I will say,
having trouble playing defense.
We've talked a lot about defense on here as well. I didn't think McGarry had a terrible game. Now, granted, Washington's not a incredible defensive front, especially at edge rusher. They have Clelin Ferrell and Dante Fowler, 2 top 4 draft picks, but guys who busted comparative to their draft stock. But tackle is still also obviously a position the Falcons could address. I will say, though, to defend McGarry's honor here, that holding that he had, what it was, the fourth quarter or whatever, where the pass rusher slipped and he had just pushed him down. BS. I know that we can't. The game's already long enough. We can't be going through and we got some bots in here. Let's not follow you, Kayla. But you can't go through and reanalyze every single penalty call. But that was a bad one, and that stunk from the refs. McGarry didn't do anything wrong on that one.
Yeah, I did get the bot blocked. Mike, we got 2 super chats coming here back to back. It's from Mike and Bradley. I'm going to read them both here because y'all are on the same page. Mike, thank you for my friend. He says, bad clock management at the end of both halves, and they didn't adjust at all. We'll win next week, no playoffs again. Next year's draft, only 4 picks. That's right. There's only 4 picks right now. One of them is a first-round pick, and how'd you go? It ended up might be in right tackle, and then we're looking at this, and, the Falcons aren't able to stop anybody when it matters, when you're not investing in the defense. Well, we got to protect our quarterback. Well, yeah, you do. you kind of do. If McGarry's not going to be the guy, McGarry's young enough, and guys play better they play well into their mid-30s. He's just a massive, massive human being that I would probably restructure him.
Yeah.
Knock about $10 to $15 million off his salary cap number, which you can do. And I'd be looking for defense in this draft. God, it's supposed to be an edge draft. Go get your edge, for God's sakes. Get your edge on this. And Bradley followed up, Nick. He says, Raheem's clock management is crap. I can't believe how clueless he looks managing on the sideline. Total joke, and kept his timeouts in his pockets. Bill Barnwell posted this last night during the game. I think Bill Barnwell is a very, very talented writer for ESPN. And he says, there are so many things that are incredibly difficult about being an NFL head coach. They're untrainable and unteachable instincts. They require decades of learning experiences to understand. How to use your timeouts in 2-minute drills is not one of them. I was livid.
Yeah.
I was so mad. I could be watching teams I don't like, and I'll get mad. Again, one of the maddest I've ever got was when I can't stand Arsenal, gave $30 million to a player who was washed. I was like, give me 1% of all this money to save you all this money, and I would be very comfortable. But here's the one that got me in the comments. I scrolled down here. Check out this comment from Kevin that we kind of forget about, especially for a coach who doesn't call plays. Woo. You're right. Yeah. Raheem's not calling plays on offense or defense. What exactly are you doing here, coach? No, I mean, he's involved, I know. But when there's 35 seconds left, I get so mad when coaches don't know how to use their timeouts. You'll see them take the clock's running down. They're about to punt. They're on the 45-yard line, and they take a timeout instead of taking the 5 yards. It's like the guy can kick it to the moon. Take the 5 yards, not the timeout. Yeah. In this case, you've got 40 seconds left and the clock ticking, and you've got 3 timeouts in the first half. What the hell are you holding on to them for? You don't get to keep them. Golly. 15 seconds is 2 more plays. Easy.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. The clock management was not good. Very frustrating for him. Another area too, Scott, I know that I've shared the graphics with you. I'm not sure if they are as prevalent, in Falcons country, but it's really shown, I thought, in this game too, just the hidden yardage overall in this one. I think there was a back and forth, back-to-back punts in the, might have been the fourth quarter, that before Jaden Daniels winning touchdown or tying touchdown. But Falcons, I can't remember who kicked first, but the Washington coverage unit, perfect. You got to run past him. They get an extra 35 yards on return. He catches at the 10, returns it about to the 40. Great. Cool. Guy runs past him. There's nobody there. It was a good kick. Maybe too far with not enough hang time, though, for the coverage unit, pairing the coverage unit to the kicking. And then on the other side, you have the Falcons guy, no blocking at all, tackled immediately. it's been one of the weakest parts of this team this season, the coverage units from the special teams. And I know everybody thinks special teams, it's the kickers themselves, the actual specialists, but a lot of the value from your special teams is your core 4 guys, kickoff return, punt return teams. And just this game, there was a back and forth, just 2 drives that were a total encapsulation of what we've seen this season from the Falcons team, the hidden yardage. It was a big loss on that one. And I mean, you talk about 30 yards of net field position there. That's the game. Right. That could be the game right there. So that was a really frustrating one, something that's been a major issue with this team all season. Kind of forget about all the quarterback stuff and defense stuff and Raheem Morris, but special teams was bad in this one. And you lost that one. And again, one of those things that like you flip it, you just as easily could have won.
Yeah, we're both the special teams thing, because I don't like that they have to. I mean, they really do. That they have to automatically kick the ball into the end zone. When I watch returns, I rarely see anybody break the 30 on a return now, and 1 out of every 3 is a penalty anyway. And they're starting inside their 15. I'm like, make them return it. Unless you're talking to your team and there's something, there's that we're not hearing, which is basically like, these are too dangerous to actually run the kickoffs, and that's what your teams are telling you. It's almost like a little collusion in there. I don't know. But the idea of they can't sorry, got a little distracted here. They can't cover is really bad.
Yeah. It's frustrating. And it's one of those things where, again, we're talking about athleticism at the linebacker position, the depth of the safeties, your guys like Grant right out there or whatever, the not good enough from the core 4 on that. So that's another area of this team. And Scott, unfortunately, it's going to be hard to address in one offseason as far as personnel goes, because as you mentioned it, only 4 picks, right? Like a lot of times you're filling out those guys with your round 4 through 7. Okay, this guy, he might not be able to actually play. He's still pretty raw, but he is a RAS, king, or a height, weight, speed guy who can rush and cover. That is something that even if we can't coach you up to become a very good defensive player or tight end or anything like that, height, weight, speed plays on special teams. And it's one of those areas with the margins are so small in the NFL, and you lose it every week, you're going to lose games.
Well, you've only got 4 picks, but the bright side is you're taking $40 million in dead money on Kirk Cousins. Side jar. We haven't had one of those in a while, Nick.
No, we haven't. No,
we had to put $1 every time we'd get frustrated in this and put $1 in the side jar.
Yeah.
The 4 picks, the 4 picks in the draft, and then $65 million guaranteed that will be, no matter how you slice it, $65 million over the next 2 years in 2025 and 2026 will be counted towards Kirk Cousins. That's frustrating. That's frustrating. Didn't we just do this? Didn't we just get out of cap hell talking about scraping together, leftover parts from the Bears and the Titans to put defensive linemen on the field while you're paying off Julio and Dion and Matt Jones just to turn around and do it again?
The dead cap stuff is the way of the NFL. I do want to talk a little bit more about Penix as well in this game. I think that we talked about it earlier in the chat. Somebody mentioned like it'd been nice if we got him out there earlier so he could work out some of those kinks. I don't know if it's going to be an accuracy issue long term or if it's just a communication issue. But a lot of the deeper balls, I mean, let me pull up the stats here, but Penix had an unbelievable average depth of target in this game. His average depth of target was 12.5 yards, which is just insane. Really throwing it around the yard there. Shout out, I guess, to the offensive line. I don't know how many sacks Penix took in this one overall, but the throwing it deep. I did think, though, there was some miscommunication, just some of the chemistry stuff there. I will say, though, Scott, and I went back and pulled up the passing chart here. A little bit concerned about the opposite shoulder passes, right? The ones to the right, because he's a lefty, right? The intermediate passes throwing to the right sideline, he was off on, I thought, some beautiful passes to the left side following his arm, but opposite shoulder passes across his body, the accuracy in the intermediate area, there was 3, 4, 5 passes that were not even close. So not granted was Penix billed as a accuracy savant in this. No, he's the arm talent guy. He can hit it anywhere. But some of the throws, I don't know if it was amped up, if he was getting on top of them a little bit, but something to watch going forward. The right sideline throws right at hash mark, outside the right hash mark, is something that was bad in this game for the most part from Penix. I thought I could pull it up here to see exactly what he went on that side. Yeah, so 10 to 30 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, throwing on the right side of the field. He went 2 for 7, it looks like, in that one. And some of those weren't close. I don't think there was drops there either. So again, just long-term thinking there. How does Penix look throwing to the right side? It was something that if you recall, Scott, coming out, Mitch Trubisky, he could never throw accurately to the opposite side of his arm. So left sideline, good luck. He was horrific. I'm not saying Penix will be that guy, but I think it's worth watching.
We saw that throw to Mooney against the Giants. I know he's there. I think it's just a matter of consistency, and that's going to come with confidence and experience.
It's a small sample size. I mean, as well. It could just be a one-off in that. But there was some that were way off in that one. I don't know if it was exactly chemistry, like balls that were uncatchable to that side. So again, in one game, I'm not saying it's going to be a trend, but it was one that it's like, okay, if I was scouting a college quarterback and I saw that, it's like I'm going to be watching for this specifically in the next game. From Penix. So that was just one little note I had watching last night.
Real quick on here, I want to hit some where this is your 2-minute warning. We're about to get out of here. So a couple of questions and stuff I want to address here. Brad says, did Atlanta get to drive the ball in overtime? I thought they got a chance even if the first team scores a touchdown. No, if they score a touchdown at game over, if they kick a field goal, you get the ball back.
And I want to add to Brad, that's in playoffs. That's a different playoff. It's a different overtime format in playoffs.
Is it? I didn't know that for sure too. Wow.
Yep. So in the playoffs, you're going to have a chance to respond no matter what. In the regular season, if they score a touchdown first, it's over. I'm 90% sure that's how it works. It's a different playoff format.
Here's my other nitpick, and it happened to Bijan Robinson. This has been one of my other nitpicks. In most sports, it's either like your foot's in bounds or the ball's out of play. In soccer, it's always the ball. There's no questions asked. It's always the ball. I can be a goalie and I can be all the way in my own goal. And as long as the ball doesn't cross the line and I'm holding it out in front of me, it's no goal. If I'm in bounds and I reach out and grab it, the ball crosses the line, doesn't have to touch anything or anything. It's out of bounds. Baseball, ball goes into fair territory or foul territory. Once it's touched, it's out. No matter what. It's not like that in football, and it's frustrating. The ball, if I step out of bounds, I'm running left and I got the ball extended in my right hand and the ball is 6 feet in bounds, but I step on the line, I'm out of bounds. But if I do that in the end zone, then it's the ball. Then it doesn't matter where my feet are. It's this, it's not quite hypocrisy. It's not quite a double standard, but it's like different rules for different scenarios for the same type of play. That kind of stuff irritates the crap out of me. So no, didn't get the ball. John, it was 9 plays, I believe, in the third quarter. It was they went on a long drive. They went on an 8-minute drive to start. The Falcons went 3 and out, and Washington went on a long drive. And I think the Falcons got 1 first down and had to punt. So I'm pretty sure they ran 9 plays in the third quarter on that. It wasn't much. Bucks raised bolts. He says, why you're not blaming missing on the game-winning field goal? A couple reasons here. One was the horrendous clock management that robbed themselves of at least 2 plays that could have moved the ball into much more makeable field goal territory. And 2, because of the clock management, the kicker would have had to make a career-long 56-yarder who was just signed last week. So, this wasn't Younghoe Koo out there trying to hit a 56-yarder. And frankly, I'm not blaming anybody for not making a 56-yarder. If you make it, great. If you miss it, that's a tough field goal. That's not a gimme. I'll get mad when you miss the 35-yarder. Come on, that's a free throw. But no, it should have been a 40-yarder if Raheem, and I meant to play this at the very beginning. Shout out to Josh Kendall for asking the question that didn't get asked right away.
Timeout after Darnell's catch.
Says, why didn't you use a timeout?
Probably could have. Thought we can get to the line of scrimmage with our operation, be a little bit faster there, get them there without going on the fast on our ball, try to save that timeout. In hindsight, could have been a good decision or a better decision to take that timeout.
Should have used a timeout. Okay. At least admit to it. He didn't admit to it in the first half, though. He says, no, it worked just how we wanted. We got a field goal. No, it didn't. You had to scramble and you left downs. You still had plays to run and you ran out of time and you still had 3 timeouts. That's not good clock management. It was horrendous clock management at the end of the game. But that's why on that one, I'm not blaming him. It was a 56-yarder. And Mike asked, he goes, that's the best guy that's available out there. Appreciate the support. The 56-yard at the end was 10 yards short until Coot comes back. Got to go for it if it's over 46 yards. Yeah, probably over 50. And frankly, you started seeing the Falcons start to do that anyway. When they were on the 35 and 3rd and 4, 3rd and 8, they were going for it because they didn't trust Coot to kick it 50 yards anymore with the injury or whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of one of the hidden. I don't even know how hidden it is. But the Falcons' kicking game and special teams this year after, was it New Orleans? But after Koo had the big 5 made, and then he scored Daryl Hatch had a block, punt, touchdown, first half. After that, the second half of the season, the Falcons' special teams have been horrendous. They've been horrendous. And in close games, which the NFL are, those are difference makers, Nick.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's something that they're going to – the thing is, why didn't they bring another kicker? How many kickers are there in the league that teams are pretty happy with? 20, 25? Then after that, you have a bunch of guys that are kind of hopping around. And unfortunately, with Koo kind of getting the yips this year in injury, you are one of the teams that is searching. But there's enough teams that are poor at kicker that it's not as simple as finding a guy off the street. The guys who can do it are pretty much nabbed up out there. Now, again, I'm not a kicking specialist or anything like that. There are guys out there. Who is it? The kicker for the Lions was signed from XFL, and he's had a heck of a year. Bates, I think it is. But
they're
again,
out there. I've said it a bunch of times. There's a zillion guys out there that can kick a 50-yard field goal. Finding that they can do it when the game's on the line in front of 90,000 people is a different animal.
Yep. And just, the consistency and everything. So, yeah, it was the real loss there is the clock management, not getting it closer than you did and burning time there. I mean, you had time for, like you mentioned, 2 or 3 more plays there if you did it, especially with a rookie quarterback where you're still working on getting the plays in quickly and getting everybody set up.
Too. He said, especially with a young quarterback, well, did you not know he was a young quarterback beforehand?
Yeah.
Take a timeout and settle him down.
Give yourself a chance. Yeah.
It was an F. It was a clock management and game management for this game was an F. It was a failure.
Yep.
Because again,
I would just want to say this season, unfortunately, it comes down to this game. I mean, you played a playoff team with one of the top 10 quarterbacks in football on the other sideline this season, who's going to be a no doubt rookie of the year with Bo Nix's decline here of late. But you don't lose the season on this game. You lose it to the Saints game. You lose it to the Chargers game. Some other games earlier. It's unfortunate that you dropped that one. But this was a decent team you went against, a top 3rd team in the NFL. And you're right now stuck in the Falcons right now look like they're stuck in the murky middle. Not sure what that means for next season. It's all going to come down to what does Penix look like? How much better can he get? But yeah, it's frustrating, no doubt. And going to have a lot of hard conversations, I think, this offseason as well.
Yeah, going to New Orleans and then blowing that game against the Chargers was bad. That's the 2-game swing that makes the difference in having to win this game.
Yeah.
And having to win this game. But looking at a best case 9-8, that's a 2-win improvement. I think at the beginning of the year we said that should be the floor for this team. At 9-8, I'm probably a little disappointed. And I am a little disappointed in how this team has played this year, specifically on defense. Going back to the resource management in the offseason, I'm even more disappointed now how it was handled with signing Kirk Cousins to $90 million instead of getting a rookie and trusting him, 24-year-old rookie. Again, It's not like you were going with Anthony Richardson here, who had 1 year of starters. That there does need to be some changes. We'll get into in the very near future some of the options for upgrades. We'll do next week. Make sure you're hitting your subscribe and your like button because I don't know if and when we are going on Sunday or Monday. I'm going to be out of town and I'll check internet connection, availability, etc. But on the 1st, we might not be here, or on Monday, probably not going to be here on Monday. So we'll be back on Wednesday of next week. I'll be back here. We'll just kind of do a wrap of the whole season. setting up for Senior Bowl, draft, and all this type of stuff, because the Falcons, they need defensive backs in a big way. They need a linebacker in a big way, and they need edge help in a big way. How can that get done? Those are some of the things we want to go after. I want to say thank you to our Super Chat superstars, Brian, Mark, Cornerboy TV. That feels like a newer name. Welcome. EB coming in twice. Thank you. Daryl or Darrell, you have to help me with that one. GA Doc. How about that? Since that one's just in parentheses, we'll just call you GA Doc. Mike Harvey a couple times, and Bradley, thank you very much. Helping keep the lights on, help keep my forehead nice and shiny. We will not be here on Wednesday the 1st, so make sure you're pay attention to those notifications, because we might go Sunday afternoon or Monday morning. I just have to see what my travel schedule is going to look like, because I'm flying on that Monday afternoon. So appreciate everybody being here. It was a frustrating day. I think the chat, y'all were awesome today. Thank you so much. And if we don't see you, have a happy and safe and healthy New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. It's been a great ride with you in 2024. Everybody have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, and holiday season.
Peace.